This is CBS.
Funeral services are pending following the death of a Wayzata police officer. 2 other people remain hospitalized for bullet wounds after yesterday's shooting spree in Wayzata. Residents of Warsaw became teary-eyed on the way to work this morning. Tear gas remained in the air following last night's demonstrations throughout Poland, demonstrations that left at least 2 dead. The evacuation of refugees from Beirut has concluded ahead of schedule, and Palestinian leader Yasser Arafat has arrived in Greece on his way to Tunisia. And at the State Fair, we'll visit one of the oldest restaurants on the fairgrounds. Those stories and more coming up on the Noon Report.
Juicy steaks, corn so fine, tomatoes you picked right off the vine. You bring it all together with country time, summertime, mealtime. That's the time for country time. Tastes like good old-fashioned lemonade.
Country Time lemonade flavored drink mix.
Summertime, mealtime. That's the time for country time. Summertime.
Airwick presents some smelly reasons why you need a rug and room deodorizer. Rover who's all over. The old fogey stogie. The damp musties. Once these odors get trapped in your rug, they're in your room. So you need Airwick Carpet Fresh. Just sprinkle Carpet Fresh powder on, wait a few minutes, and vacuum. It overcomes the source of odors in your carpet. Your room has a fresh, clean smell. Carpet Fresh, America's #1 rug and room deodorizer.
How do you get shirts so clean, Mr. Lee?
Ancient Chinese secret.
My husband, some hotshot. Here's his ancient Chinese secret, Calgon. Calgon's 2 water softeners soften wash water so detergents clean better. In hardest water, Calgon helps detergents get laundry up to 30% cleaner. We need more Calgon. Ancient Chinese secret, huh?
Calgon helps detergents get laundry up to 30% cleaner.
WCCO Television, Minneapolis, St. Paul. From WCCO Television, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the Northwest's leading news station, this is the Noon Report.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Noon Report. Friends and families of 2 men are grieving today and trying to make sense of a tragedy which has no rational explanation.
Debbie, one family is that of the Wayzata police officer killed yesterday as he responded to a domestic call. The other, the man who allegedly killed the officer, wounded 3 people, and then after a standoff in the Wayzata post office, 36-year-old George Johnson killed himself with the officer's gun. The tragedy began at this home where George Johnson had an argument with his mother. She tried to calm him and failed. Police were called and Sgt Jim Anderson responded. Johnson fired a gun and Sgt Anderson was killed. Another officer was grazed by a bullet but was not seriously injured. Johnson then apparently went to City Hall where he shot 2 people. Then the gunman ran to the post office and amid the crowd fired through a window. 5 hours later, police waiting outside stormed the building and found Johnson's body with a brief suicide note. He'd killed himself with a revolver he'd taken from the body of the policeman. 2 victims in the bizarre shootings remain hospitalized today. 37-year-old Kathy Mickelthune of Long Lake is listed in fair but stable condition with a gunshot wound in the abdomen. 25-year-old Thomas Schleich of Wayzata is in critical condition with a leg wound. Barb Brown has more on the policeman who was killed.
Sgt Jim Anderson was known as JW to his friends. He was a well-liked and respected police officer in person. He was soon to be married. He'd been in law enforcement for 16 years, starting with Hennepin County. Then he spent about 10 years with the Minnetonka Police, where he worked with the man who became Wayzata Police Chief, Dave Brem.
So there was a very close relationship between the officer that gave up his life and myself and Chief Brem here.
Officers who'd worked with him called him a super person, a hard worker, a good cop. And Anderson enjoyed hunting and fishing with his 2 young sons and his good friends.
We were hunting buddies together. We went up to Detroit Lakes for a good 10, 15 years running. I know he now had the custody of his children, and I know him to be a very, very sensitive, or knew him to be a very, very sensitive guy, a very soft-spoken, gentle human being. He was the last person you would expect to have something like this happen to. Well, I'm shocked. very sad. I think that we've lost, Wayzata has lost an excellent police officer, and I feel I lost a good friend.
When Anderson moved to the Wayzata Police Department from Minnetonka nearly 2 years ago, he remarked to friends that Wayzata was a lot quieter than Minnetonka. He didn't seem to expect to be in many very dangerous situations. But all it took was one. Barb Brown, WCCO Television News, Wayzata.
Funeral arrangements for Sgt Anderson are pending. At least 6 inmates were injured during a prison riot at the Montreal, Canada Detention Center overnight. Prison officials say 180 inmates were involved in wielding iron bars and starting a fire in one wing of the facility. Firemen brought the blaze under control, but dense smoke added to the chaos. About 150 guards protesting for more security were staging a sit-in in the prison cafeteria when the rioting erupted. There were no reports of hostages being taken. Debbie?
Rallies commemorating the birth of the Solidarity Union in Poland have ended, but the prospects for a martial law crackdown continue. According to Polish television reports, demonstrators will pay for their participation in Tuesday's rally. CBS's Bert Quint reports on the demonstrations.
It's only now that people are becoming aware of how widespread and serious yesterday's demonstrations were. In Warsaw, clashes lasted from mid-afternoon into the night. But despite the fact that security forces were heavily armed and that there was more action than the capital had seen in decades, no serious casualties have been reported here. It was the usual clubs and tear gas and water cannons on the one side, stones and tear gas canisters flung back by the other. In Gdansk, 10,000 persons were involved and disturbances went on into the late hours, but apparently no heavy weapons were used. Today there is news that there were demonstrations and crackdowns in at least 6 other cities or towns, and that in one of them, 2 demonstrators were killed and 3 seriously wounded. That was in the copper mining town of Lubin, near Wrocław and not far from where the Soviet Army maintains a garrison. Police say demonstrators attacked them not only with stones and bricks, but with Molotov cocktails as well, injuring 12. The police fired. Today, the country seemed calm. Workers returned to the shipyards in Gdansk. Tear gas remained in the air in Warsaw, but the city appears to be its usual self. The regime claims that the demonstrations were a failure from Solidarity's point of view, that most of the demonstrators were youths rather than the factory workers who were the main force of the union before its suspension. But the fact that throughout the country, many thousands of people went to the streets in open defiance of police forces deployed and equipped like an army indicates that the spirit of resistance remains strong. Bert Quint, CBS News, Warsaw.
The Finnish ambassador to Poland and 2 embassy secretaries are free now, but for several hours they were held for questioning by Polish police. The trio was arrested for taking photos at Tuesday's demonstrations in Warsaw. One chapter of the stormy saga, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, is at an end. Today, the last of the PLO guerrillas leave Lebanon, ending a 12-year state within the state. Early today, PLO chairman Yasser Arafat arrived in Greece aboard a Greek cruise ship. Greek Prime Minister Papandreou met the ship along with 4 government ministers. As he left the port for his hotel, Arafat indicated he does not feel his battle for a Palestinian homeland is over, saying, "I am not defeated. I am with the people, and no people can be defeated." Defense Secretary Caspar Weinberger arrived this morning in battered Beirut for talks with Lebanese and U.S. officials. Weinberger's meetings are expected to focus on a possible increase in American military aid to Lebanon. Tomorrow, the secretary goes to Israel, where leaders are upset over a letter from President Reagan. The president has told the Israelis he wants Jewish settlements in the occupied territories stopped. Mr. Reagan is reported ready to tell Israel that any move to annex the West Bank or Gaza would touch off another crisis in the Mideast. Bill?
Minnesota's 2nd female Supreme Court justice was sworn in this morning. At the conclusion of those proceedings, Minnesota became the first state in the nation to have 2 women sitting on its Supreme Court. That story next on the Noon Report.
Spectrum. It's here. It's new. It's Spectrum. A whole new world of entertainment for everyone within 60 miles of the Twin Cities. Your TV and this phone number can bring it to you now. Watch movies, new movies, good stand-in-line movies, up to 70 movies every month. Uncut, uninterrupted, plus live sports, exclusive concerts. More of what you watch TV for. Spectrum. It's here now, and the price is right. Call now, 623-9400. You've waited for Spectrum long enough.
may carry you 100 busy places. But for a special day or evening, come retreat with us on Crystal Bay and create. We're the Art Center of Minnesota, offering classes in the fine arts and crafts at all levels of expertise. Our facilities and equipment are among the finest in the area. Our teachers, all professional Minnesota artists. We're serious, affordable, and we want you to join us at the Art Center of Minnesota.
A bit of history was made at the state capitol today as the Minnesota Supreme Court officially welcomed its newest member. Mary Jean Coyne was sworn in as an associate justice during ceremonies in the Capitol Rotunda. Coyne is the second woman to be appointed to the 9-member bench. That's more than any other state. She succeeds retiring Justice James Otis. Members of the Church Universal and Triumphant will be allowed to use a Lake Harriet mansion as a monastery. They will be allowed to. Hennepin District Judge Neil Riley ruled today that the church does not violate the city zoning code. Last fall, the church bought the mansion for $600,000. Neighbors suspected the church of being a cult, and complaints poured into City Hall immediately. The city filed suit against the church, alleging that too many people lived there, thus violating the zoning code. The church said it was a monastery and did not have to comply with that code. Debbie?
In business news from Wall Street today, traders are moving on momentum gained during the rally of the last 2 weeks. But at noon, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 0.9 of a point. Transportation issues are up 0.2 of a point, and utility issues down 0.5 point. A representative of the Northern Natural Gas Company says the firm does not intend to help pay for the delinquent accounts of customers whose supplies have been turned off. Ted Richardson said that the idea was part of a proposal by a citizens organization, but he added that that is the purpose of fuel assistance and weatherization programs. According to an NSP spokesman, about 870 Minnesota natural gas customers are without natural gas because of overdue accounts. A Ramsey County employee who collected mileage payments although she had no car and no driver's license has been cleared of any wrongdoing. Mary Lou Garrick said that her husband and children had used the family car to take her on county business and that she is entitled to the payments. The case was brought to light by St. Paul City Councilman Ron Maddox. Maddox's charges were investigated by the Dakota County Attorney's Office after Ramsey County attorneys disqualified themselves from the case. Maddox is running for a seat on the Ramsey County Board. High-flying air travelers are paying a little more for that privilege today. The IRS says it will rely on congressional intent and begin collecting new taxes on airline tickets, even though President Reagan has not yet signed that tax bill. Most airlines have reportedly been caught off guard by the IRS announcement, assuming that the taxes would not be collected until that measure was signed. Bill?
This week, Debbie, Dana Middleton is taking us to one of America's gambling capitals in our consumer travel series. And although many of the betting games in Atlantic City are much like those of Reno or Las Vegas, the coastal city is also opening up some new horizons for gamblers.
The casinos are the big news in Atlantic City, and people like them.
A lot of things to see, a lot of things to do, bargains. Probably casinos is about the most fantastic thing that's going on.
Is it what you expected when you first came, or is it not quite what you expected?
It's what I expected, and as I told my wife, a lot of people stand in line to get their money away.
The highest stakes are at the baccarat table. The dollars rack up by the thousands, and you can lose your shirt. If you're not well acquainted with the game, craps can be a lot of fun. Minimum bets here are reasonable. There's always an air of tension. At the Playboy Hotel Casino, a bunny will run the roulette show. If you've come with a fistful of quarters, there is a variation on the standard slot machine. It's progressive slots. Every quarter dropped into a specified machine is added to a total. An exact combination on your machine means you could win all the accumulated money. And they'll take your money in any form. That includes your hotel room. It can run as high as $100 a night. That's per person. Far cheaper are the homey little inns. Check St. James Place. The Inn of the Irish Pub features period rooms at $19. You can sit on the balcony and chat in the evenings. The inns really are your best buy. As to restaurants, well, okay, I know. It is not the greatest looking place in the world, but Mr. Colmone whips up the meanest batch of pasta you ever ate. For more on accommodations and restaurants in Atlantic City, check our consumer travel guide. Tomorrow, we'll check the famous but struggling boardwalk.
This is Dana Middleton for WCCO Television News.
Well, Bud Kraling isn't in our CCO Weather Center today. Instead, he's at PV Plaza for the kickoff rally of the United Way of the Minneapolis area. Earlier this morning, 30 United Way agencies began answering questions and distributing materials about their programs at 2 agency fairs. One is being held at PV Plaza, the other in the Crystal Court. The fairs will continue until 2 o'clock this afternoon. The 1982 goal for the United Way campaign is up 10% from last year, $23.7 million. So the organizers suggest that you dig down into your pockets and help out. Debbie?
Incidentally, Bill, the United Way of the St. Paul area also began its 1982 kickoff this morning with a kickoff breakfast at the St. Paul Radisson. Well, the fog has lifted and the clouds are moving away and the sun should be with us for a while for a brief respite from last week's rain. And back in the Weather Center, Dan Carlson will tell us what the weather should look like for the rest of the day. That is up next on the Noon Report, as is an interview with Congressman Arlan Erdahl on a hearing tomorrow on Minnesota's new Vinland Center.
Spectrum is here. Up to 70 movies every month for everyone within 60 miles of the Twin Cities. Plus, live sports and specials. Call now and don't miss these September blockbusters. Star Trek, Donald Sutherland in Eye of the Needle, Agatha with Vanessa Redgrave, The Great Muppet Caper, 9 to 5. All for you, uncut, uninterrupted. More of what you watch TV for. Spectrum. It's here now and the price is right. Call now, 623-9400. You've waited for Spectrum long enough.
The fashion look. Jordache.
It's September 1st already. Just think of it, 3 weeks, summer will be over, 114 days until Christmas. Let's not talk about winter, let's talk about the other season, road construction. I've just been handed this bulletin that I-94 eastbound from 280 into Minneapolis is very plugged up due to construction. We suggest an alternate route. Let's look back about a month and see where we were for August. In terms of temperature, it was pretty normal. 71.8, the average monthly temperature, the departure from normal, only about 1.5 degrees. In terms of precipitation, something quite interesting. We wound up 3/4 of an inch above normal. How did that happen? We were way below normal for the first 3 weeks of the month. In the past 8 days, over 2 inches of rain has fallen. That served to push us up and over the normal mark for this time of year. Now, taking a look at exactly what happened to do that, it was those last-minute showers and thunderstorms last night. They started out in the Dakotas and in west central Minnesota. As they moved to the east, they intensified considerably. Numerous reports of hail and heavy rain, strong wind, some crop damage out in this area as well. Zooming into a closer range as they approached the Twin Cities, about 10 o'clock last night, they began to enter the metro area. They moved across to the east-southeast. Before it was all over, some very significant rainfall amounts. About 3 inches fell in West Bloomington. That's the heaviest amount, officially only about 0.96 inches at Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport. Over an inch at Rochester. Lighter amounts out to the west, except for Sioux Falls, picking up, again, almost 3 inches of rain. So it was somewhat spotty, but nonetheless much needed because we have been rather dry this summer. Taking a look at our 5-state satellite recorder, what we've got going on is the decrease in cloudiness associated with those storms. We were cloudy through much of the morning. As we roll the sequence through, you'll see the clouds begin to decrease over the southeastern corner of the state with lots of clear sky behind it, and that's going to be the norm for the rest of the afternoon. Bright, sunshiny skies and mild temperatures. On the U.S. satellite, some heavy thunderstorms from southeastern Iowa, then moving across Illinois, a tornado touching down near Lincoln. No reports of damage or injuries yet. Flooding a problem in West Virginia, southeastern Kentucky, and northeastern Tennessee with a flash flood watch out this hour for southeastern Kentucky. But back to the west, skies are clear to partly cloudy. Why? Well, on a national map, we have a large area of high pressure sitting right over Montana. 76 the forecast high for Bismarck today. The front that triggered our showers and thunderstorms last night will move to the east, bringing showers and thunderstorms, some of which could be heavy from the Gulf Coast state all the way up the eastern seaboard into southern Canada. Well, the afternoon highs today will be in the 70s and and 80s over much of Minnesota, a few 60s up in the Arrowhead. Right now in the Twin Cities, well on our way to our high of 80. We're at 75 degrees Fahrenheit. The relative humidity, 60%, winds northwest at 11, 29.93, and rising the barometric pressure. The forecast calls for mostly sunny skies this afternoon, increasing clouds, a chance of showers tonight. We have about 20% probability of that occurring. The high 80, the overnight low 57, winds northwest at 5 to 15. For tomorrow, becoming partly cloudy after some morning showers, the high 78. Showers again possible on the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Temperatures normal for this time of year in the extended outlook, 73 to 77 on the highs, lows 53 to 57. And with that, we'll throw it back to you, Bill, for a bright, sunshiny day at the fair.
Okay, Dan, thank you. That's a terrific forecast for today. I'm not so sure that folks are going to be happy with what you suggested might happen on the weekend, however. Well,
sorry.
You got to do what you got to do, right?
That's right.
Okay, thank you, Dan. You know, tomorrow at 10 a.m., members of a House subcommittee will be gathering at St. Paul Vo-Tech for a special hearing on programs for the handicapped. And in the afternoon, the committee members move to the new Vinland National Center in Loretto. With us today is the senior Republican congressman on that committee and the author of legislation which would provide more than $5 million for the Center for the Handicapped. He's Congressman Arlan Erdahl, and it's just a little bit over $5 million, isn't that right?
Yes, I think it comes to about $5.3 million over a period of 5 years, part of it for construction, part of it for ongoing programs to be matched by local effort.
One of the staff members here said to me today, why Vinland? Well, there is an interesting background to that, isn't there?
Well, why the name of Vinland? Vinland really is a prototype of a similar sports center in Norway, in Beitostølen, in Norway, where the concept is of stressing not one's disabilities, but stressing one's abilities through health sports and to enable to live a fuller, richer life that way. And the original impetus came from a 1 million kroner gift, which would be about $200,000 from the Norwegian government in 1977, the year of our bicentennial, to kick this program off. And as you say, it's a national center, and the name came, I guess, from the Vinland that the original Vikings called the New World.
Okay, the official title, Vinland National Center for Physical Fitness and Health Sports for Handicapped Individuals. Kind of a leader across the nation and indeed in the world.
Well, I think so, and we've already had there about people from 18 states that have been trained and then have gone back to the various locations to try to emphasize again what people with handicaps can do. It's really amazing. I first got involved in it some years ago when I was Secretary of State under a program called Ski for Light, where I skied along with a blind skier. And I remember it so well. He happened to be in your business, a very successful businessman in radio. He had a family. And it still moved me because after we went through this race, and he had never skied before, and I had skied in college and whatnot, we skied alongside of one another. And after the day was over, he said, "This is the most exciting day of my life." I've never forgotten that.
Thank you for being with us today to tell us about that most unusual and important organization, the Vinland National Center. Congressman Arlan Erdahl.
Thank you very much, Bill.
Us. Debbie, what else is happening?
An ex-twin helped do it for his former teammates last night with a 9th inning homer. Tony Parker will have that story in just a moment. And we'll check out a tradition of food at the fair coming up on the Noon Report.
Roast beef and the bread and the tomato, the Swiss cheese and miracle whip. Oh no.
A sandwich just isn't a sandwich without Miracle Whip salad dressing, the bread spread from Kraft.
Here, in the middle of America, there's lots of small towns. Lots of big ones, too. They all have a lot in common, no matter the size.
There's a post office, a couple of churches, roads heading every which way,
and, of course, your full-service bank.
Folks living here in the middle of America know no one does more for you and your money than your full-service bank.
Spectrum. Spectrum. It's here, it's new, it's Spectrum. A whole new world of entertainment for everyone within 60 miles of the Twin Cities. Your TV and this phone number can bring it to you now. Watch movies, new movies, good stand-in-line movies, up to 70 movies every month. Uncut, uninterrupted, plus live sports, exclusive concerts, more of what you watch TV for. Spectrum, it's here now and the price is right. Call now, 623-9400. You've waited for Spectrum long enough.
Well, the Yankees beat the Twins 3-1 last night. Ron Guidry outdueling Brad Havens with both pitchers going all the way. The Twins out-hit the Yanks 9-7, but left 10 men on base as Guidry shut them down with the bases loaded in both the 6th and the 8th. In the 6th, the Twins loaded the bases with nobody out, but Guidry slammed the door. In the 8th, it was bases loaded, 1 out, but the Twins just couldn't get him, although they had him staggering. The 3 Yankee runs came in on homers, a solo by Ken Griffey, and then this 2-run homer by Craig Nettles in the top of the 9th, which was the game winner. Roy Smalley was on base at the time, giving the 2 ex-Twins a hand in the Twins' defeat. For the 38-year-old Nettles, it was his 17th homer of the year. The Twins got their only run in the 4th when Kent Herbeck singled home John Castillo. The 2 teams play the finale in their 3-game series tonight in the Dome. It'll be the final game of the season between them. The Yankees have won 10 out of 11. The Yankee pitcher Tommy John left the club prior to last night's game, bound for Anaheim, California. John, one of several Yankee players who've had troubles with owner George Steinbrenner, had asked to be traded. The 39-year-old lefty goes to the California Angels for 3 unidentified minor leaguers. He's 10-10 this season, having won 3 out of his last 4 for the Yanks. He'll rejoin his former Yankee teammate Reggie Jackson, who said bye-bye to George after last season and signed a free agent contract with the Angels. The Angels are currently a game and a half behind Kansas City in that division race, and John just could help them win the pennant. 38-year-old Billie Jean King in the far court was the only major casualty in yesterday's opening round of the U.S. Open Tennis Championships in New York. King dropped straight sets to 18-year-old Susan Mascarin at scores of 6-3, 6-2. Mascarin ranked 51st going into the tourney. King was ranked 12th. Top-seeded Martina Navratilova plays her first match tonight against Laura DuPont. Martina, who's won the Wimbledon, the French and Australian Open, going for a personal Grand Slam. Well, Washburn and Southwest were winners last night. In the annual Minneapolis High School football preview, Southwest beat Edison 6-0 on an 8-yard pass here from Ken Reiser to Mitch Lundquist. Washburn scored on a 12-yard toss from Jeff Lundeen to Terry Armstrong to beat North 8-0. The other 12-minute periods ended in scoreless ties. The high school season gets underway this weekend for most Minnesota schools. Washburn is the defending city champion in Minneapolis, Deb, and Johnson holds that title in St. Paul.
Where did the summer go, Tony?
It's gone.
Okay, thank you. Well, lots of fairgoers spend much of their time on the fairgrounds stuffing themselves. The variety of food available is truly astounding. There's the Pronto Pups and the pancakes, the pocket sandwiches, the milkshakes, and of course the cotton candy, and my favorite, those tiny donuts. But Bill has found a fair concession providing a tradition along with nutritional food. Bill?
I couldn't tell that your favorite was tiny donuts, Debbie. She just picks one up every day. You know, individuals are often honored here at the State Fair for their many years of service to the fair, but today we'd like to honor a group of people for their many years of providing home cooking to State Fair visitors. One of a dozen or so church-affiliated dining facilities on the fairgrounds, the Hamline Methodist Dining Hall has to be among those with the longest State Fair history.
Well, they've been on here about 91 years as far as the records show.
Obviously not with the same building.
No, this building was built in 1969. The other one was an old wood structure that Fair Board thought we should tear down and put up a new one.
Dick Hesselgrave first visited the dining hall in 1916.
Of course, they started down there near the old Coliseum, and they had a nice place there, but my aunt insisted we go up to Hamline Dining Hall to eat because she knew she'd get good food.
As many as 40 members of the congregation donate their services each day of the fair and serve as many as 1,600 meals a day. What do you think you gain from working out here?
The friendships, the fellowship with meeting people that, you know, it's so different than just going to church and shaking hands at the door. Out here you really get to know, and it makes an awful good feeling.
Congregation members are proud of their church's 100-year history and the reputation for good food of their State Fair Dining Hall.
We try to say we got the best food on the fairgrounds, and we take a lot of pride in our food, and We buy top quality food and prepare it right here and serve a good meal.
Dick, if somebody comes out to the Hamline Dining Hall, where should they look for Dick Hesselgrave if they'd like to say hello?
Well, they just call them down by the coffee urn. That's and then we'll see they get a good cup of coffee.
Okay.
3 donuts left here, Bill. If you hurry it up, I'll save you one. That's it for us today. We hope you'll join us again tomorrow.